Right. Good afternoon, YouTube. Thank you, as always, for joining. Um, yeah, probably what the quietest sections of the week has been and gone now. We're about to get into the heavy stuff, right? The heavy lifting comes at 3 o'clock from the ISM services, so we'll have a little focus in on that market. But we probably want to start with the story of the day, probably with these all-time high targets. We've been talking about them all week. Lots of Bitcoin eyeing them, gold as well. And gold got mighty close to those levels. So let me bring up the gold COMEX chart. Just to bring it into perspective, we've got these all-time highs. In fact, I've got a little alert sat at the high here to give us some scope of how close we got. We were pushing on, and we're already, over $10 down from those highs. Might not look like much on here. It might just look like an easing off. But if you look at it on a 5-minute basis, I'll turn a few of these off so you can see what's going on. We had quite the hefty rejection from there, right? Big old sell-off. Yeah, nearly $20 from that high. And it got within, what do they say in the industry, a midgie's willy from the all-time highs. And then who knows, it could have been chaos at that point, but just eyed it, and rejected it so far, at least. But the day is young, right? There is still the potential for these ISM numbers to come in aggressively bullish. And I'm certainly one who will be trading gold today after that number, whether it's good or bad. I feel like the volatility in this number, or in this market, should I say, based on the ISM numbers, will be significant. It may well be that I don't trade the figure, of course, if we don't get a big beat or a big miss. If it's just in line with expectations, then I wouldn't expect necessarily to be in straight away. But we certainly expect some big volatility to come on the back of this move. Yeah, seeing some hefty moves around there. Bitcoin's another one that we've got our eyes on. Just had a look again this morning around that 69,000 level. What was the high on Coinbase? It hasn't challenged it again. Around 68,849, so $150 off all-time highs in that market. It's a race to the top, I think, for these two, and we'll see what happens today. But if you look at Bitcoin, we're looking at the moves at the moment. I'm a little bit stamp one here. I probably want to see the BTC on. Might as well keep it consistent, right? Let's keep a look at Bitcoin on here. So yeah, on the Coinbase, we've still got a little bit to do, but if you look at it on a 5-minute chart, it's started to drag itself off the floor. And you got one of these typical candles that you get in Bitcoin at strange times of day where it just gets absolutely licked. But it has since recovered and pushing higher from here. But you always know one of these is around the corner on Bitcoin. You get them way more frequently than in any other market. Look at another little beauty there. Just a cheeky one just to keep you awake just at 1 o'clock in the morning. To keep you interested. So, yeah, interesting action in the commodity and crypto space. If we take a look closer to home with, well, what market have been following a lot recently? The likes of Apple yesterday was a big one, right? We had the breakdown yesterday after they were had some legal issues and they had some big fines to pay. And yeah, it was like a antitrust issue, they call it. We've closed with another gap, or should I say, opened with a gap lower into the pre-market on Apple once again. And this market, if you look at it on a daily chart, right, we're actually in a bit of a pickle here. We've kind of broken clearly down below that little wedge where it had been consolidating here. We haven't had any closes below 180s. Funnily enough, I just heard someone throw 180 on the task board in the office 5 minutes ago. So apparently they went bust because they were only needing the 150. But there we go. But the sell-off has been pretty magnificent in the Apple share price. And yeah, where are we eyeing here? But this is one of the biggest companies in the Nasdaq, right, or in the whole of the US. So this will no doubt be one to focus on. I know Nvidia has been one that's been holding things up quite nicely of late, and we have rallied up. Oh, in fact, just literally got to a target while I was on the phone there earlier. Would have been interesting to see. Had my eye on that price all morning and wasn't here to pick it up. But yeah, Nvidia has found some liquidity at the value high for the week. There is a view, I think, that it could easily ease off from here. But yeah, this is a key level for it to get through. So if Nvidia can start to sell off to the downside in line with Apple, I think Nasdaq could have a pretty wobbly day out there. But having said that, my view medium term on these stocks is higher. I do feel like the all-time highs will be met on Bitcoin and gold this week if you put a gun to my head. But we have plenty of news throughout the remainder of the week to look at as well. You're probably hearing a lot of fun car park chat in the back as well. So good to post that stuff on YouTube. I'm sure it's keeping you entertained. Always fun to keep an eye on what's going on down there. Until we're all killing time before the open. And yeah, let's have a look at some of the stock markets as we approach the open. A big picture on the Nasdaq. Obviously, seeing these all-time highs picked up. I think I've cleared them off, but we'll see if I stick around. All-time highs, yeah, posted yesterday on the Nasdaq, but it has eased off a little bit from there. Seeing the same on the ES contracts, slightly, yeah, easing off. We've got a really nice uptrend here on stocks, especially since the early part of the year. You can probably draw a nice trend line through here, I would say. You would see this kind of hold. The reason I'm optimistic medium term is we are heading into the March option expiry, which tends to be one of the big ones. It is quarterly options in March, so you'd expect to see normally at least trend continuation into that, which is the 15th of March. So that will hopefully allow for some fairly easy trades, and we'll see what else comes through to aid that. I'm not back. Well, say I'm not back. Jerry's not back with you on YouTube until Thursday, so we might as well take a look while we're here on Wednesday. We've got the budget due out from 10 o'clock in the morning in the UK. We've got the ADP non-farm figures. We've got Canadian rate decisions, followed 45 minutes later by a press conference. And between that, we've got the JOLTS numbers and Powell testifying. Is it the Senate or the House? What's he up to here? For the House Financial Services Committee in Washington. I think the Senate will be the next day. So this is often, especially the first one, is often a market mover. He will be grilled incessantly by some politicians who know what's going on, others who don't. So do be patient with some of the questions. Aren't always the sharpest. But yeah, tomorrow is going to be a huge day. So this is just the starter, really. Main course really kicks off Wednesday. And then by Thursday, when we're on with you again, we'll already have had the ECB rate decision, unemployment claims, and Lagarde will have already started her press conference. But we'll be awaiting the next one from Powell on Thursday too. And then obviously it's non-farm week. So a pretty big week of news from here on in. Right, with 2 minutes to go to the open. Maybe have a look at the kind of more nano picture. Looking at the Nasdaq, it has been pretty strong. I have my eye on the point of control here at around that 18,023 level, which is where we had a lot of volume traded. So if we are going to get a trend continuation, this might be a place that I look. We did have a nice breakdown on the Nasdaq actually. It tends to work quite well with the trend lines, which was drawn yesterday. So these lows that were dragged through. And then we did hold it briefly yesterday before we then collapsed into the close. And yeah, we're off ticks into that level. So yeah, good trend line breakdown on the Nasdaq. But maybe it's going to come down and grab some liquidity and have another look north. We shall see. So with 20 seconds to go to the open, but to the multi-screen setup, we've got S&P futures on the top left, Nasdaq top right. We've got the Dow, which has very much been struggling today. And the bonds, which really haven't. We've seen some decent moves in the bond markets across the board. Europe's been well poised on the bonds. That's showing the year, bonds up, yields down. That should be good news for stocks, but we're not really seeing that. No trade for me on the open today. Not too interested in what's going on there, given we have big news coming out at 3 o'clock. Don't like giving myself, half an hour worth of time to both get in and get out of the trade. So yeah, going to probably not expect a huge amount. I mean, maybe there's a little bit less volume in it, so sometimes that can create on the open, given that news that's coming out at 3, so perhaps that can create exaggerated moves, because there's sometimes with low volume, if some trading needs to be done, there's very few people to trade against, and that can exaggerate the move. But yeah, we're not really seeing that today. That's for sure. Unchanged so far in the first 30 seconds or so. On the Dow, Same on the S&P, and Nasdaq showing a little bit of weakness. Often worth watching these big stocks at the moment that are in the news, right? So if we kind of focus on Nvidia, and that is right at a critical juncture here. If we do manage, I think this opening range on Nvidia could be very important the first couple of minutes. If you can push on from here, that will probably keep things going. Apple, by contrast, again, yeah, up so far, but yeah, I think this is a pretty crucial time. We've not got anything to lean on really. And nearby with Apple, we haven't traded as we saw these prices for a little while. So Nvidia is the one that's maybe got something you can keep an eye on, but yeah, rejecting that level already, perhaps does roll over, then the Nasdaq will. Probably not going to stick with you too long today because I know a lot of you guys who are with us for all these sessions have heard a lot from me in recent weeks. So yeah, I might put a pin in it here and we'll have a quick look at the ISM number before we get off. With the patterns on this, we haven't seen any real, it's not always getting it higher than expected or lower than expected like we were seeing with the non-farm payrolls. It's very flip-flopping around. It's almost an alternate, right? It's very rare that we get two ups or two downs in a row here, or too high than expected, too low than expected. So nothing to garner from that. The average beat or miss is about 1.2, so 54.2 or above would be interesting. 1.8 and below. Similarly, other than that, I'm going to keep my eye on gold, and yeah, we'll see if we can get that level on the Nasdaq. So that's my plan for the afternoon. Stick to yours. It's always worth making these plans, and yeah, if you haven't made one already, don't go chasing things in the 28 minutes before these figures come out, because we're likely to get stuck in trades, and then running things through data is never my favorite thing. I wouldn't recommend you do it either. Right, I'll leave you to it, and won't be me back in the morning. Jerry hopefully will be on from the morning, and yeah, and tomorrow afternoon. So I'll see you again on Thursday morning.